Kitco Mining's special coverage of Fast Markets lithium supply and battery raw materials is brought to you by Lindian Resources.
Lithium has been on a tear this decade, so how healthy is the junior lithium space? I'm with David D'Onofrio. He is CFO of PowerOne. You have some investments in some early stage lithium projects as well as some late stage. David? Welcome.
It's great to be here. Glad I bumped into you.
Yeah.
Nice catching up.
Tell us, what is PowerOne focused on?
So PowerOne's a boutique merchant bank. We're based in Toronto. We're principal investors primarily, and we're fairly diversified, but mining has been, and early stage mining exploration has been a big part of our practice right from its founding about 20 years ago. It's a sector we're very passionate about, a lot of opportunity, got its challenges, but certainly it's great for the country. It's a part of the backbone. I think Canada's got a very unique knowledge base, which has really helped us sort of advance a lot of these projects around the world.
No, you've been in this for a while and you've had some investments that go back a while.
Yeah.
So when did you actually kind of see the sector kind of get some love?
We were very early, maybe a little too early. The first company that we were involved with is called Lithium Americas.
Yeah.
With Waldo Perez as the founder, and we took that public in 2009. That was before Tesla was public. And I recall the days of, going around marketing with the company. The first 15 minutes of our presentations, what's lithium, what's it used for, it's a tiny market. It's still a relatively small market, right?
Yeah.
It won't be for long, but man, it was particularly tiny. It took a lot of education, a different type of an asset, being a brine, not a hard rock, which we've seen more of. So a lot's happened from there. Obviously, that company's gone on to be an incredible success with two major assets, one in South America, Argentina, one here in Nevada. And the asset in Argentina actually just commenced production about 2 weeks ago. So it's been an amazing process to see that from discovery right through to production.
You have experience in the other side of the sector, and that would be gold. You're an executive at White Gold. Maybe contrast to compare what's happening in the critical mineral space as opposed to the gold space.
Yeah, we're in a period of risk-off investment appetite, generally speaking. You see that in technology. And notwithstanding the fact that the commodity prices are at near all-time highs with gold in the 1900s and silver, exploration companies are fundamentally a risk asset. So, and it's not a hot sector, a new sector like lithium, like uranium right now. So there just isn't much capital available for it, which is unfortunate. These are very important, projects that need to be advanced, but there's only a limited amount of capital to go around, and these days it's going into these battery metals, critical metals, and unfortunately what you're seeing is amazing projects like our White Gold, for example. It's over 2.1 million ounces, 2 grams at surface, but the market caps of these things are fractions. I think the discrepancy between the commodity price and the equity prices on average has never been as big as it is right now. So amazing opportunities for investors, but it takes a little bit of stomach. We don't know when that's going to change. I personally think when rates in the U.S. here eventually, plateau and people have visibility to come down, the dollar comes down, gold goes up, and maybe that'll reinvigorate interest in the precious metal sector.
Now, if you're a company that is a little on the shelf right now as far as precious metals things go, can you turn your energies and focus to advancing something in the lithium space?
A lot of companies are doing that, right? It's often by necessity. Fortunately, our companies, we're very long-term supportive shareholders, so we try to ensure that they're capitalized to carry out their original missions and not get too distracted. And with White Gold, we have great partners like Nico, Kinross. Obviously, PowerOne's a big supporter, and we've been able to stay financed and continue doing that work. But I know a lot of companies aren't that fortunate. It's a very challenging time. So people sometimes need to do that. And sometimes it works, right? That's just the way the industry's been. And I guess each person's decision, they got to make it themselves, right? You want to stay relevant. The last thing you want to do is be, not doing anything, right?
It was kind of more just kind of from the talent focus as well, too. So you have somebody that's had a successful outcome, say, with Silver Company X, and they're coming over and they are kind of focused on Lithium Project Y or something like that. Do they have a skill set that transfers over or no?
For sure they do. I think like any industry, people are the most valuable asset. So if you have competent people, especially people that understand the capital markets, are able to raise capital, that's going to always be a valuable attribute to running a company like this. Technically, sure, there's specialties, but I think, like Waldo Perez, who founded, the Lithium Americas asset. He also founded Neolithium's 3Q asset, which Zijin bought last year. He was a gold geologist for his whole life, and now he was able to convert that skill set, and and has been phenomenally successful. So I think yes, the short answer is yes. These guys are skilled technical people, and learn a little more and chase a different kind of metal.
Is there a difference right now? I mean, there's a lot of Australians that are coming up into Canada. There seems to be kind of a focus to kind of like push these projects through to the end, as opposed to, it might be something like take it as far and then be a takeout offer like you would see more typically in the gold space.
The Australians, I think generally, they're a little bit further up the curve on the lithium stuff, just with Western Australia having sort of been, such a rich lithium endowment, and there's now operating mines. And I think just even in general, like you said, not only with lithium, they take a different view, right? I think the North American view is more like, let's build up a big resource, be very confident that it's there, and then start to finance the mine. Where the Australians say, listen, let's start mining, and more often than not, there's more and more gold as you get down, and it costs a lot less, and use the proceeds from the mining to pay for your capex, right? So a different approach. Who knows what works better? Different risks. So, but you're right. They're sort of being a little more aggressive and coming to Canada and scooping up a lot of these projects, and it's good. You always got to be learning all the time, and the different skill sets, different approaches. Got to keep your eyes open to all the method.
I think I'm going to ask a yes question to a CFO, but maybe you could talk about the flow-through tax benefit that's been introduced in Canada. How meaningful?
It's very meaningful. It's a little bit of a double-edged sword because, as I mentioned, there's limited pools of capital right now for any mining exploration. So a lot of people that otherwise would have invested in traditional flow-through are now just shifting that to critical metals flow-through because of the better tax attributes that you can get with that. Although I do think it is bringing more capital in. Like, I do like the idea of that program. It was a great thing to do. The flow-through has kept this industry alive for decades. So it's great. I think there's room to do more by the government. Especially, listen, to see how geopolitically charged everyone is around the world to get stuff done. And that's one way the Canadian government can help ensure that, their domestic projects continue to get financed. They need to compete with what's going on in the U.S., which, you see here that literally billions, tens of billions of dollars are being, put into the industry by the government in different capacities. In Nevada, Thacker Pass, Lithium Americas projects, seen a lot of interest with being backed by some of the OEMs, other projects here. We're involved with a very interesting project here in Nevada. It's called Nevada Lithium. One of the largest lithium deposits in North America, maybe the world. Advanced project, and you certainly see that type of support or that type of interest for those types of assets. So the government, I think that's helpful because mining. There's a lot of red tape in the best of times. I think with the government openly supporting this is critical to help advance it, and they need to advance it quickly because unfortunately I think the West has really fallen behind in terms of advancing this particular industry for the whole electrification of transportation revolution.
Well, that's kind of the next piece as well too. Do you think there's anything meaningful? Have you heard anything meaningful happening in terms of like permitting, in terms of times of permits and all of the red tape?
I think it's starting. It's not an easy process. There's a lot of stakeholders, but from what I've seen in Canada, in here as well, I think there's a lot. Listen, the Fraser Institute puts out a study every year of the top mining jurisdictions. Nevada is perennially #1 for a reason. That stuff is very important. Your jurisdictional risk is something we've always been very sensitive to, and I think in this climate, it's even more important than ever because the world's a very dynamic place. There's a lot of different tensions. But what that will, I think, do is accelerate or provide people with incentive to accelerate these types of projects, right? And for what I'm seeing, it's started. Obviously, it could be a lot better, and it takes time. But where you really see in North America, and South America is a little bit of a different story in some places, which is odd. So I think you really want to be paying attention to what's going on in a different jurisdiction when you're looking to get involved with a company.
How long would you guess it takes for taking a project from beginning to end?
It's funny. It depends on the type of deposit, right? Like if you look at this stuff in Brazil,
let's say pure vanilla, it's a hard rock.
Yeah, so
it's like,
that's so
in Canada.
These pegmatites, if we're talking about lithium, they're very easy to not as easy, but they're a lot easier to build a resource on. We're involved with a company called Lithium Ionic. It's in Brazil. It's beside Sigma. It's a hard rock project, and it's amazing to me how fast these guys were able to sort of understand the geology of what's going on, and within about a year now, they're going to be putting out their maiden resource. And so that's a very fast timeline. So that, you know, that's something you want to look into. What kind of deposit is it? How fast can they accelerate it? For some of these more complicated deposits, which can take longer. You know, in mining, the simpler, the better, right? In terms of what, you know, sometimes you see these polymetallic deposits and you think, wow, I got all these credits, but that could mean metallurgical issues. So you got to really understand what's going on.
Retail investor, you're taking a punt. What would be some advice?
I think this sector's got a long way to go. We really are in the early days. I am, you know, a big believer of some of the statistics that they're, you know, in the talks here at the Fast Markets Conference, that there is a tremendous amount of new supply that needs to come online, especially in these critical minerals. Lithium's a big one. You know, but there's a few that aren't as well known, maybe like a graphite, for example. You know, probably more graphite in a battery than you do lithium. So it's interesting. Be careful. You know, understand what a project has, right? Like, you know, there's companies trading at, you know, very healthy market cap that don't have a drill hole in the ground versus others that, you know, might already have a resource. So, you know, just understand what you're getting into and understand where it is and look at the people involved, right? You know, you want to back guys with a track record of success, and we kind of need to put your faith in their credibility. So that's the other thing that's very, and I know from the PowerOne perspective, we're really fortunate now that we're able to work with guys on second and third projects who have had success in the past. And that for us is just, you know, we're just so fortunate to be in that position. You know, the perfect example is Ari Sussman. He's got Collective Mining now in Colombia. He was the founder of Continental Gold. We did that deal together with him, sold it to the Zijin for a couple $2 billion 2 years ago. Now he's back onto what I think is one of the most exciting new copper, gold, silver discoveries that I've seen in a long, long time. So, you know, it's, some people say he's lucky. I don't think so. I think you got to be very skilled. He's got an incredible team. He's been in country for a long time. He's got the right relationships, and, you know, it's not a coincidence that he has that much success.
David, thanks for speaking with Kitco.
Well, great to be here anytime. You know, happy to chat.
My name is Michael McRae here at Fastmark's 15th Lithium Supply and Battery Raw Materials Show here in Henderson, Nevada.
Kitco Mining's special coverage of Fast Markets Lithium Supply and Battery Raw Materials is brought to you by Lithium Resources.